our panelists. Welcome. I'm delighted to introduce the moderator for today's panel discussion, Aseem Sharma, KPMG's Head of Telecom Sector for the Asia-Pacific region. Aseem brings over 20 years of experience in the telecom and tech sectors, having worked across Asia, Middle East, India, and Australia. He is currently based out of Singapore, where he oversees 16 countries and services telecom clients across geographies. Aseem is known for his strong industry knowledge, cross-market perspective, and global experience, which all make him perfectly suited to lead today's conversation on enterprise impact of 5G. Over to you, Aseem.
Thanks, Winnie, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. Appreciate it's evening, and we'll try to keep it, try to close it by 6 o'clock. It's a bit of a overdose of 5G today, but a very, very relevant topic. I always say 5G is not about speed, it's a game changer for all the industries. It is an enabler for innovation, and innovation is rapidly going. At the core shift of that is artificial intelligence. In the current ecosystem, from KPMG's perspective, we did a survey earlier this year, interviewing around 3,000 CEOs across the globe. And everybody, with whatever is happening globally, with the uncertainty, almost 80% of the CEOs said that they are really optimistic about the implementation of technology. Almost 75% of them said that they are expecting a faster return of implementation of AI in their organization. Earlier, the benchmark was 4 to 5 years. Now everybody's saying in 2 to 3 years, the return of investment will be coming. So we'll be talking a little bit about that, how enterprises are adopting 5G, and what is the strategic importance 5G plays for the growth of an economy. So we are honored to have a fantastic panel, different parts of the world, flying on from various parts of the world. And I'll give a brief introduction. Enrique here, Head of Mission Critical Network for Enterprise Southeast Asia, Oceania from Ericsson. On the left side of me is Satkirti, CTO, Airtel Business. On my right here is Rishi, VP Sales at ASPAC Rakuten. And further there is Anil, Vice President Product Management from Sepurent Communications. And at the end there is Abhijan, Senior Scientist, Network Solutions and Services, Tata Consulting Services. So a lot of this has been discussed today. So I'll start on my left side, and maybe ladies first. We'll pose two questions. One question to two of you, since you are on the left side. So Satkirti, Enrique, you've seen across what's happening globally, and Enrique, you moved from the European region recently, seeing what's happening, and especially in some parts of the developing countries in Europe and even in India, small and medium sector is fueling the economy. They're I always call, they're the engine for the growth for the economy. But how far is the 5G adoption reshaping enterprise operations across those industries? Specifically, where have they gone so far? And how can it be leveraged to support SMEs and not just for large enterprises? We've seen large enterprise-based business cases, but is it going to the grassroots to support the small and medium-sized enterprises?
That's a very good and relevant question. But before actually answering, I have to say, or I would like to give a lot of credit to the industry here, because everything that we hear on the news about artificial intelligence and cloud wouldn't exist without mobility and the networks that the operators and ourselves, the vendors, put on the fingertips of those people to actually transform the industry. So it's something that it's already happening, but the best is just yet to come, in my opinion. We are seeing the smart glasses, all those things which combine edge, artificial intelligence and very advanced hardware and chips. It will not happen if there's no good 5G connectivity, which is across the country and with the right level of service. So a shout out for the industry here. And what you're asking, I would say that only 1% of the large enterprises can afford to have a dedicated core use the spectrum, and have like a private setup. So I think that SMEs and medium-sized business can transform their operations in collaboration with the operators. I think, you know, the technology is there. They've got fantastic 5G coverage. I think India is a fantastic example of how a technology can be deployed in a very short time. So I think that it's happening. There are some use cases, but I think there's no need to think about, you know, the most advanced ones like automation, real-time, you know, robots and stuff like that. Maybe by cutting the copper, for example, and going all cellular, that's a very good way to transform a medium-sized business, right? That will bring enormous savings. Also, by giving freedom to your workers and enable remote working, you can actually attract better talent by doing those kind of things. So it's, for me, obviously you need to be ambitious in the final picture. Where would you like to be in 5 years, for example? But there are small actions that you can take now with 5G. It's actually the way to go. Like I said, why not get rid of Wi-Fi? Or why not, you know, basically, you know, improve your, I don't know, your, how you say that, your payment points, right? And that's actually a very interesting use case for small enterprises. We are thinking about low latency, about robots and stuff like that, but maybe a lot of companies will pay to make sure that there will pay a premium connectivity to make sure that payments go through, right? In congested areas. So maybe it's about connecting the car payment points and things like that to a secure 5G slice with guaranteed connectivity. That will make them a lot of money. So are the small things, in my opinion, which will transform the industry before the more futuristic use cases reach them.
Great.
Yeah, I think Enrique said something really good about, you know, it's going beyond enterprise, and, you know, investing in on-core, on-prem is something that, you know, I don't think SMB or the medium enterprises can do. But I think where we could bring it to them, or we could work with the small and medium enterprises, and how is it that we can enhance their efficiencies and productivity. And I think that's where we come in, and we can leverage on the technology that we have, because in India, it's, you know, 5G is now not just in tier 1 or tier 2 cities, it's also gone to some of the rural markets where we have relevance around it. So we were just having an outside this conference room conversation. Like I said, like 3 years ago when we launched, and, you know, we were looking at healthcare as an option, and we started looking at agriculture as an option, which today I think it is there. We're doing a lot of use cases and POC around it, but adoption is going to take a while because of the scale and, you know, obviously the cost of getting these things. But for SME, I think it's more about, can you improve the workforce management efficiency? Can you sort of give them enough automation on the ground that the efficiencies can happen? And, you know, you can bring in more for less in terms of the number of hours that they work, not just working from home, but also about how is it that, you know, they can sort of convert their production, like, you know, all the production lines that we're talking about. If you're able to automate it with basic 5G capability and low latency solutions and things, we should be able to deliver that. So that's where I think today the market is going. I think the entire UPI piece that you're talking about, the success of that is all on the connectivity piece that we have with 5G.
Absolutely, and that has revolutionized the country in some ways. Thanks
Most
for
of us don't carry our wallet anymore.
I'm really glad. Every time I visit India, I'm really glad I'm not carrying a wallet. I'll move on my right side. I think all of this has happened a lot to do with policy formation, government's policy formation, but policy formation in the telecom sector has been a roller coaster ride, not only India, but in many parts of the world. So Rishi and Anil, you worked around globally for many years now. So what policy developments are you observing globally to accelerate 5G-driven enterprise transformation? And maybe Rishi, from your perspective, what is India saying those global standards? Does India have a say? And sorry, just to add another one, and as a result, what is more needed to policy formation for the 5G?
Thank you, Asim, for the question. So I will start and take the lead from Satkirti Madam. You have given a very good example of healthcare system, and I do appreciate we are taking time to ramp up such use cases. Why it is happening? Because and Commissioner Vittal has said in the year 2003 that it's policies, politics, and technology, along with the market dynamics. These are the four forces behind any success. So from the policy, what you have asked me, that government has to see the 5G use cases, whether we are looking for any segment, whether it is healthcare, logistics, manufacturing, oil and gas. The problem we are facing is the fulcrum, which is the spectrum. So spectrum is not available to those enterprise or the big giants who wants a piece of spectrum, not the dedicated one. They can't afford to have a spectrum what MVNO has, right? So the problem today which we are facing, and I have seen that in the countries like US and Europe, right? To an extent, the problem has been solved and a dedicated spectrum has been given to the dedicated enterprise for a manufacturing or the oil and gas sector, and they are prospering. They are also funding a lot of money in the test beds so that whatever the use case they are building from the academia perspective can be reciprocated on the ground from the commercial perspective. So policy, from the policy point of view, a fulcrum base of spectrum need to be covered. Second point is government should do some tax exemptions, financing, like in Rakuten we have like NTA financing, NADO financing, that's what we use to prosper the new areas in 5G from the use case perspective, right? And we are doing many POCs in the world, we are funding it to have the new use cases. Apart from that, the third is the infrastructure sharing. And as madam also highlighted the problem, because she is from the enterprise side, and I can understand that customer wants to have a model which can be OPEX based, not the CAPEX based. They cannot invest from day one, right? So that's the massive problem. So this is also need to be resolved. Then from the contribution point of view, Jyotiradish Scindia has just said, right, that I have seen in one of the video 2 days back that India is no more, consumer, right, of 5G. They are the contributor, and I have seen that clearly, right. And what is the reason behind that? There are 4 initiatives which I have seen done by the Indian government in last 3-4 years under Atmanirbhar Bharat, right. So it's a Make in India initiative which has come up. Then a very close tie-up with the ITU and WTSA, right, from the protocol perspective and the standardization perspective, right. And then the good thing is now everybody is claiming, right, in India that 10% of the patent by the year 2028-29 will belong to India as far as 6G is concerned. So I think a lot of things are going on, and then with the advent of semiconductor focus which India has right now, I think lot of things are happening on that. Last thing which you have asked me about the business models, right. The only problem is which Airtel, sorry I'm giving again and again because you are the leader, right, in the market. Everybody is charging B2B on the per GB basis. Such model will not work. Per GB model works for the mobility customer, right? But you have to charge something like that which can give relief to them, something on inside basis, something on product as a platform, as a service, or as a use case basis. You cannot charge them on, I have laid down the fiber. This is the capex, you have to keep investing that. Their business will not flourish. So we have to go and go with the journey. Otherwise, it's very difficult to prosper in this area. It is moving in the right direction, but we need to do few things correct in order to ramp up, as what Madam said in the healthcare sector. Thank you.
Great points by Rishi here, right, in terms of the policy. What I want to highlight is that unlike the consumer segment, which is more or less similar across the globe in terms of their needs, enterprises are very diverse. There are like multiple verticals. All of them have different sets of technical needs as well as operational and business needs. So we need to look at it from a different perspective when we talk about offering enterprise services. From a standardization perspective, I think the standards bodies like 3GPP have done a phenomenal job in terms of covering different architectures to cater to the needs of these requirements, especially on the technical side. This could be low latencies. This could be things like your LLC, RedCap capabilities, and it is continuing to evolve. For example, there is talk about having a slicing capability for AI services, right? So I think that is going to take a normal course in terms of evolution to be able to meet the needs. But that's only one half of the story. The second half, which actually Rishi alluded to, is the business model side of things. There needs to be a lot of transformation that needs to happen on the business model side of things to accelerate the adoption of enterprise services. Think about a conversation that maybe I know Rishi's on the sales side or Sakriti can have with a customer, right? Dear customer, do you want a highly reliable, resilient connectivity with sub 20 millisecond latency? Check, right? Do you want an end-to-end enterprise-grade security? Check. Oh, and by the way, in a few years or in a few months, do you want to host your AI applications out of our data centers? Check, right? And oh, by the way, do you want to pay this on a monthly, fee versus a capex, like Rishi was alluding to? Think about how powerful that conversation is going to be. And 5G is as a key enabler for something like this. You may say that this also sounds very optimistic and hunky-dory, but if you look at some of the facts, as of 2025, this is globally, right? A 5G-based enterprise connection generates 2x the value from an ARPU perspective compared to a 4G-based. And that number is going to go to 3x by 2030. Again, this is because you're able to layer different services and increase the customer lifetime value, right? I think some of that innovation around business models is very important. And then lastly, I want to add from a policy perspective, in addition to what Rishi and Satkirti mentioned, what we see, especially in Europe, is that there is a lot of policy around AI and data sovereignty. What that helps with is it spurs up competition from local providers. So operators like Airtel can basically now go back to their customers and say, we want to offer sovereign AI services, right? That's going to bring up a lot of innovation in this ecosystem and spur up a lot of businesses. So I think that policy probably is being considered in India as well. That could help accelerate this growth.
Great. I think that's a very good point you have raised, Anil and Rishi. We talked about business models, and also I'll probably jump to Abhijan. Multiple patents under him, scientist, and we're talking about commercial thing with scientists is a tricky subject. So, Abhijan, business cases and return of investment is a key, fuel which fuels innovation. So, what is the key ROI challenges which you as that part of the academia see and enterprise face when investing in 5G, and how can they measure these productivity gains beyond cost savings?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and I'm glad that the issue of standardization came here, because I represent India in ITUT as a vice chair of SG13 and also in TSDSI, and I'm being an active contributor. So I try to bridge this gap between innovation and business through proposing standards from India. Now, coming to this ROI challenge, the first thing, see, I come from a company which is a traditional IT consulting company, and then over the years, it has invested in AI and other relevant businesses or innovations, and then it has built India's own network also, right? So we have now emerged as a system integrator. So if we look at it from the end-to-end perspective, and this end-to-end is not photon to photon, but human to human. Even if you call it B2C, it is still human to human, right? That human part has to be there. So first thing is that if you look at it from an end-to-end perspective, think of a supply chain management in complex situations like mines. How many stakeholders are there that somebody needs to manage? And this is not just in terms of devices, This is also in terms of how many network entities that needs to be managed. This is humongous challenge. So from that respect, when enterprises see these challenges, they will definitely be afraid of investing because there are a lot of uncertainties there. So the role of a system integrator is very important in this aspect, who takes the burden, complete burden out and says that. And even today I was talking to one of my friend in another corporation, and they were also saying that the customers are coming to them. They say that we see the potential, but you please take the pain. So somebody has to be there to take this pain for the customer and provide this end-to-end service. Now the challenge, one challenge is that managing so many stakeholders. The other challenge, definitely 5G is a capex heavy system, okay, which keeps a large segment of the Indian market out from potentially tapping them. Innovations, when we talk about India leading the innovations, lot of innovations, I mean, when we talk about 6G, we should conceive what is 6G for India also. So what we could not achieve, I mean, connecting the unconnected and connecting the unconnected in an affordable way. Okay, that should be the key. And this pandemic has actually, while it was maintaining our social fabric, while maintaining distance, but at the same time, it was actually taking lot of schools out from the curriculum. Yeah, they were not able to maintain in rural places. The digital divide was very clear. So innovations in that respect should also come. The third thing that I see as a challenge, so I mean the second point that I essentially wanted to mean is that if we look at the Indian market, the market demand is not reflected by the devices that we deploy and the way we deploy, right? So that keeps a lot of market segment out. And the third thing that I should say is that in terms of, you know, you see, since you call me a scientist, let me take to the basics, right? Shannon, the person who actually, whose theory we owe all the modern communication system, he made this communication technology as a set of three problems. One is technical problem, which is sending the signal right, okay? The second is semantic problem, that when I send the signal, does it convey the intended meaning? The third thing is effectiveness problem. Now this effectiveness problem is not necessarily in the paradigm of communication, but it finally, it boils down to this actually defines whether somebody will come to you for this technology or not, this communication technology or not. For example, we talk about AR, VR. I know many customers who are afraid or who are not willing to accept those glasses in their present form factor. Many customers who are not yet ready to accept robotics in the form factor that they are currently. When we talk about more democratized usage, it's not that fixed installations. So many innovations on other fronts need to happen on products. The way we take it, even when the business is taking the solution to the end consumer, what is the form factor of that interface that end consumer will be talking to business? That is something also we need to investigate. Even when I looked at one of the VR glasses, I was working in the lab, I was afraid of wearing that glass because of a warning sign over there. There was a health hazard warning sign, and that was very critical warning sign given there. So, but 5G promises AR, VR, metaverse and all these things, right? So it is a catch-22 situation. So a lot of innovations need to happen in that respect. And when we talk about realizing this return of investment, of course there has to be a dashboard that what I could not achieve and what could be achieved, and good POCs should be demonstrated to the customers to win them. That this is a case, and maybe the government of the day has a responsibility over there to showcase that, and definitely a lot of things are happening. So a good dashboard showing that this is what was not possible, this is what is possible, and as a consulting, what I see when we first studied consulting as a subject, what we were taught in our initial trainings was that there is a specific problem, customer has a specific problem and they want to solve it, and that was more on digitization and automation. But right now, when we interact with the customers from different domains, they are trying to, they are coming to consultants to make them imagine what are the possibilities. I give you one example, like one customer came from, he was a retail domain. So they were just asking that one of our competitors, they have deployed robots in their stores and automated the entire system, which is kind of humanless. They are saying that if I invest in that, is it something that is going to benefit me? Now that is a typical 5G use case. Okay, you have got analytics, you have got robotics, actuation, everything. You have got even IoT also, all sensors and all. So that imagination has to be churned out in the mind of the potential customers who will be adopting. So if we are able to crack that, then I think we have a large roadmap ahead that can be realized. Thank you.
So from that imagination, I think I will move from an Airtel perspective, Satkirti. What are the ROI challenges you see on a day-to-day basis? This must be a very hot topic on each day. So when you develop business model, what are the challenges you say on deployment of a product?
I think, where I would come in from is ROI is something that you basically look at once you devise a product and things like that. But where we're looking at it is 5G as a technology. I mean, there's one set of things which is private 5G, which is there for enterprises, and we have deployed a few, and there we've seen an overall ROI improvement, or rather what I would rather not say ROI, but I would see an efficiency improvement of about 8 to 9% in terms of cost and productivity that we've seen. So when we look at solutions, and I think where I would try to bring to the table is what is it that we can do to help you improve your workways, your workforce management, and your processes that is there, which will enable you to look at a much more cost-effective running of business, right? Because, like I said, every business has its own ROI that it needs to match, and understanding the complexity of, all my dear colleagues here said that, we have 5G is capex, and, whether we like it or not, it's going to be that much cost. But we also have solutions which are much more lighter, wherein you take it to the edge, and then basically be able to provide something which is right off the edge cloud, give it locally, then be able to actually have a very, very heavy core that will enable you to run your, your services, etc. on the edge cloud. Thereby, you're actually looking at a much more cost-effective model, and then obviously there is better, efficiencies that I can bring into the system. I wouldn't talk about ROI because it would be very specific to an industry, very specific to what they want to run. Because unless the biggest challenge that we have today in the industry is your legacy devices are not 5G compliant. That's the first thing that we need to bring onto the table. And that's where, we need intervention from OEMs, from, basically organizations outside, the government, the policy holders to try and bring in this entire compatibility. Unless you're able to get the devices to that, so we can continue to keep whatever it is, right? So obviously it's going to not be giving you the required ROIs. And hence that's where I come.
No, absolutely right. I think it's a hot topic of debate. Technology has moved fast. What about the OEMs? Equipments are still at where they were. And that's where I'll probably move from an Ericsson and maybe Rishi from your perspective. 5G generates a lot of data, right? It creates a lot of data, and with the world where we are living in, sustainability is the top agenda for most of the business leaders. So from a sustainability angle, how can 5G contribute to sustainable goals and energy efficiency for enterprises? Can I get some perspectives from you?
Actually, I've got a good example, right? So it will only make sense that Ericsson, as a 5G OEM, could apply 5G on our own factories, right? So Ericsson does two things mainly. So software for core, basically, and radios. And we've got a factory in Texas which is is like the blueprint that we want to implement in the rest of the countries. Hopefully, very soon in our factory in Pune, and this is a 5G factory. Everything there's no Wi-Fi, there's no other means of connectivity, but 5G SA, right? And I'm gonna give you two very impressive figures. So by just applying 5G and 100 use cases, very simple use cases that we've put together in that factory, Ericsson has been able to save 25% of the energy, or to run the factory with 25% less energy consumption than in the previous way, right? So that's very impressive. And also, we are able to multiply the output per person by 2.2 times, right? So that's the way to say it. So it's when you start, like I said, when you start with the simple use cases, you don't have to do data mining, robotic AGVs. It's very simple. You start by the small use cases. You get confidence, and then you move to the things that actually work and make sense. And I think that's a very good example. You take something that was working very well, but you take the risk of applying a new technology, which, by the way, is super proven. And in India, for example, you've got top-notch operators, and you'll be any enterprise should be able to leverage them to achieve these kind of things. And you can get those kind of impressive figures, like 25% energy reduction. That's not only a how can I put it? It's not only something that you will see in the bottom line, right? That's also good for the environment and for the planet.
That's very impressive. More reason for you to move production to India.
Yeah.
So, Asim, what I feel that the born of this particular technology 5G and the sustainability goes hand in hand. We talked about 2G, 3G, 4G era, and we talked about the sustainability. But if you ask truly that in which technology we will achieve that, the answer is 5G. People talk about 5G as a faster technology, but in technicality, if you go, the energy efficiency required to produce a bit, it's 90% lower than what you get in 4G. So it's clearly a technology which is very important. On top of that, the use cases, the scale in and scale out, the slicing, the dynamic resource allocation made this 5G technology wonderful and equipped to sustainability and the power consumption pattern. So this is point number one. So this technology is not about speed only. This technology is here for the humanity and to control the powers. Second part is, Madam touched upon that one interesting aspect, right? And then my fellow colleague about the SI part, which is equally important. But in order to make the overall operation much more scalable, because number of devices, number of touch points are increasing, and then ROI issue is there, right? So the most important thing which we have to figure out in this technology is the smart operation, automation and AI. Right? So I would like to give example of Rakuten Symphony, right, where RMI is the operator in Japan, and they have somewhere around 72,000 macro sites, and they are operating with less than 250 people. It's just because of the smart operation and AI and all the tools which they are using, right? So, for similar network I have seen across the globe, you need thousands of people to manage that. So that's the beauty of this technology. And then cutting the carbon footprint means the beauty of this technology, the speed which we get, right? So what we can do that we have more like AR and VR, no need to travel. So one is the direct impact, how you are going to serve the humanity from the sustainability point of view, and one is the indirect one, no need to travel, no need to destroy your time. You can have the AR and VR, you can do your training, you do online session. We have seen online education is a big hit nowadays, right? People are going to Akash or Physics Wala and they are doing great, right? And they are producing the results also, right? So that's the most important thing, and that is helping the sustainability in some form or shape. Then the concept of smart building, right? Where if you go out, power goes off, that's what is required, right? Then I have seen, someone has given the example of logistic also, right? And it's very important logistic also that if you put that smart intelligence, then you have an optimized route, you know how to use that, you can save the fuel. Again, it's the indirect saving. Last but not the least, again, I will take the lead from my company, Rakuten. We supply cloud native environment and the cloud native storage, which can work on any bare metal. So we support a recycling of any hardware. Give me any hardware, it will work. So whether it is CNP or CNS platform, so we can do a lot of recycling and reuse so that you can conserve the humanity and the environment and the sustainability. So 5G is there for sustainability, according to me.
Thanks on that, Rishi. I think it is very, very important to maintain that sustainability goal, but at the same time, when somebody is deploying so much of technology, a lot of system integrators are involved in the process, a lot of OEM manufacturers are involved in the process, service providers are involved in the process. And the world where we are living in, security is one big aspect beyond sustainability. I say sustainability and security, very big aspect in the current world. So moving to the security angle, how do you think, and maybe a question to Abhijan and Anil, how do the enterprises ensure security of in the complex 5G deployment, especially when you have multiple providers deploying a technology for the consumers?
Yeah, I can take that. Well, security is becoming extremely complex, right? And this is stemming from the fact that 5G as a technology has taken software and hardware disaggregation, right? That's the only way for us to scale. So one of the artifacts of that is that you have many more moving parts, right? You have a very complex supply chain. You may have a CNF coming from Ericsson. You may have the cloud infrastructure coming from Dell or Red Hat, infrastructure management, and security coming from some other, and of course Rakuten Symphony, right? The fact that the end customer, someone like an Airtel, they have to bring all of this together and make sure that everything is working and it is secure. We are very still familiar with the CrowdStrike incident. By the way, I was in Delhi when that incident happened, and I was at the airport, and everything was shut down, basically, and I still remember that. And this is because when things are coming from such a complex supply chain, it is difficult to get around and manage the complexity, including the security aspect of it. And the only way that can be addressed is by implementing true cloud-native principles that includes CI/CD/CT, which is automation pipeline, and observability in that, right? So that way, anytime anything has changed, right, you assume that it is going to have a security issue. You validate all the security framework to make sure that that change is not introducing any kind of security issues, and only then, when you're satisfied, you promote it to the production. So adopting some of these cloud-native principles and automation is going to help you address these challenges.
Abhijan, what do you think?
So I think this gives rise to a renewed or a more importance to the role of security orchestrator, and there has to be a dedicated security orchestration service. Otherwise, if you look at the way the attack surface is increasing while we are connecting all the dots and in a more complex way. So one way is that application to application end-to-end security is something that needs to be ensured. But even in the middle boxes, the more you have enterprise changes, the more you have security glitches. So from standardization perspective, a lot of talks are happening in how to harmonize the security and orchestrate this. And I take the point from Anil. AI has a big role to play here, because AI can actually act as the orchestrator in a self-healing and predictive in a predictive manner. So there are proposals like, can we just like, can in an IoT environment, can I predict a rogue node somewhere in millions of devices, or can I predict that somebody is attempting to do a DDoS attack somewhere in some juncture? The other aspect that is coming is there is more and more awareness on PQC, post-quantum crypto, right? So, people, we are not talking about QKD right now. We are talking about PQC, and lot of discussions are happening from many leading organizations, even in TSDA side. Lot of proposals are coming. Okay, so PQC is another aspect, and NIST and all, they are also coming up with their proposals. So as you see more and more, hacking and all these, advancements in devices and all. So this is an important aspect that even enterprises are also learning. They are also learning about these things, and they are also getting awareness. So one thing is orchestration. So admitting the role of orchestrator as a special service in security. The second thing is having a harmonized standardization, identifying what are the jumping points from one point to another. And the third thing is every layer you let us pledge for PQC as for advanced systems. So right now I can think of these 3 points. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I'm just conscious of time. Almost 6 o'clock over, and a lot of us have been here since early morning listening to Modi ji. So I'll do a last question, and maybe Abhijan, I'll start since you are having the mic in your hand from that side. What can India learn in the 5G rollout deployment? One thing, just one thing, which is the most important, top of your head, which India should consider.
Yeah, India should consider understanding its own requirements and influencing global standards as much as possible. And I'm part of that, so I invite, as a representation of India in ITT, I would like to see more and more organizations. We are ready to collaborate as TCS, as Vice Chair of ITT, SG13. Thank you.
Well, India has aspirations to become a $7 trillion economy by 2030, and this aspiration can only be achieved by enabling tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities as well, not just tier 1 cities. And there should be flexible models that encourage entrepreneurship and evolution of businesses coming from these cities, so that they can spur the economy and contribute to that GDP growth.
So India is, what we are claiming would be very strong and ahead in 6G, and we are going to have all the standards followed over a period of time. So we have too much focus on technology, which I respect, but apart from that, we have to see the business model, we have to adopt that, we have to be more flexible in terms of spectrum and regulatory requirement, and creating a platform for the enterprise across all the segment, whether it's manufacturing, oil and gas, healthcare, logistics, where we can sell, or Airtel, like Airtel can sell, or Rakuten Symphony can sell this as a service, as a platform, not as a product, not as a per GB model, but as a more inside sell. So we have to adopt more on a business model which can work, because billions of dollars has been invested on taking the spectrum by all the operators in India. But in order to make and justify this over a period of time, enterprise has to fly, and this technology is there to support.
I think from me it would be 2 things. One is the devices that we have today, and with Made in India coming, which is very big, and we have so many startups coming in, specifically for the small and medium and rather medium enterprises. You can take about your IoT devices, there's so much that the entire digital transformation is there, and your SMB segment is what is growing faster than enterprise. And if you're able to cater to that market with getting the devices to them, I think this whole evolution will happen much more faster. So that's where I think what India should be looking at.
As an outsider, right? So I'm Spanish, and it's a small country, 45 million inhabitants compared to the size of India. And if you think about Europe, but I'm gonna be super positive. I think you've got the talent, you've got the infrastructure, you've got fantastic operators, fantastic companies, world-leading 5G capabilities. So it's just a matter of executing. And one thing that I've only been here in the region for 6 months, but it's very, very easy to see that compared to Europe, so probably the industry is facing the same problems, but the way you are addressing them here is much more optimistic, looking for solutions rather than complaining to the regulators and so on. So what I would say is you've got everything, it's just a matter of executing. If I could say something, the least barriers and the least bureaucracy and red tape that the government puts, the faster the execution will come. But that's very, very easy to say and difficult to execute. But from my point of view, the basis and the foundation for tremendous success is here. So I'm actually jealous.
You should be. Thanks a lot, everyone. A fantastic discussion, and thanks for your time. I think we'll give it an end. Almost over 6. Enrique has to catch a flight, so I'll not
Thank
keep
you.
him holding.
Apologies.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, panelists, for this enlightening discussion. Thank you, Asim, for leading this discussion so masterfully. Now, I would request Asim to offer a token of our gratitude, the IMC mementos to all the panelists, please. I